Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first of a new series for Jobman called Deep Dive and What's New. So, what are we running through today? The big hot topic that a lot of clients come to us about is quoting and how that works in Jobman and what benefit that brings through the software. And also three new fantastic massive modules that have come into the software in the last month. I'm going to spend the majority of the first part of about 10 minutes going through the quoting system in Jobman. Now, there's a couple of points I want to make before we dive into this. Number one, what I'm going to be showing you today is the most complicated form of quote management in Jobman. And a lot of the examples will resolve around things like CAD integrations and also product usage in a big way. This is how you really get the best benefit of the quoting software for your business. It's important to note, though, that if you're not a cabinet maker, and we certainly have plenty of other manufacturers ranging from signage to steel to virtually everything in the SME manufacturing space, just because the examples I'm given today may look like cabinets and styles, the idea is how best to understand that usage for your business. And it can be used for any business. I've seen this process used in lots of businesses, caravans to modular donga builders through to glass companies. The list is endless. So that's an important note. The reason we use the cabinets as the example is number one, they provide the most highlighted ability to show what benefit really detailed level manufacturing can do with the software. So it's basically showing you the most difficult process possible and that we can tackle it. And then you can scale that backwards from your company from there. The other thing to note is a lot of the automation that we're going to talk about with this quoting ability can be handled without going to this length of setup. So you can literally connect up to your Jobman, get your job management workflows going, and then start importing your CSV supplier list from your suppliers and your catalog items, build some services, set up your labor operations, and literally be quoting. You can dive into a quote, create an item section, add some labor, add some materials. You will still gain or best benefit side of that automation. That information will pull through from a quote, from a lead into a job, in which case your raw materials will be populated. Your operation times for your workflow will now be more accurate because they are what you're quoting and estimating on rather than guesses, which then the team can move forward and test. So all the benefit is there. You don't have to go to this extreme length. But as many people have said over the years, when looking for a program or an ERP especially, the biggest benefit you are looking for your business is automation and scalability. So the ability to create something once and have the team use it over and over and over again. And that's what we're going to show you today, the ability to build products, presets, style items, what benefit they have as they come into the quoting, and then how that pushes forward. And it's like anything. If you set it up once, it's done. You can duplicate that benefit and return on investment for years to come. So we've got a video here that I'm going to run through and I'm going to talk you through it. The idea behind this is we wanted to deep dive a little bit more. So this is going to be less around overarching benefit and more around setup so that you get a really good understanding for what this can do, but also how to actually run through the process. It's a very common question. That's why we're running this webinar. So the quoting setup itself is essentially broken into several areas. The end goal is presets and quotes for fast quoting with secure pricing. It's not a massively complicated area to break up and build and run through your software, but it does require a bit of understanding to really get the best benefit. So that's what we want to show you today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this backwards and then forwards so it makes sense. So the ultimate aim here is products and pricing with presets. So how do we achieve that? Is we have several areas in the software where that information then connects to make everything flow seamlessly. And at the end, we'll be showing you a couple of examples so you get a really good understanding of what all this does. So we've got categories in our catalog. So these are things like hardware, boards, sheets, steel, drawer runners, hinges, handles, components, etc. These categories are really where most companies would define their base pricing. So different board types and sheet types have different levels of wastage. Your hardware generally has lower wastage, but you might have high handling fees, etc. So it's inside categories that we can manage that in the software. Brands is the ability for the software to handle certain SKUs or products being built and bought from multiple suppliers. And then we have product types. Product types are generic overviews of each of your products. Product is just, in a base sense, in Jobman, is a container. It has parts, it has labor, it might have services, it might have materials inside it. It's the ability to bring that one product in, and I'll give you a very standard example, base one door cabinet, and then use the software to really multiply and have any variation of that product known. So you can have 1.2 million variations of that product, but you only need to build one, and this background information. We've got catalog materials that build into our quote pricing, which is ranges, which I'll show you, which leads to the actual overarching pricing of the product. And then inside the settings, the last link is we want to then link that quote pricing to our options in what we call styles. Styles are basically just schedules. Some companies call them schedules. Most companies would be very comfortable with the idea of a style or a range pricing. What that means is rather than have to worry about the day-to-day indicative pricing of materials affecting your products, a great example of that is steel or board pricing that tends to fluctuate a fair bit. We can build range pricing that will impact those products because they're made of parts from those materials to get fast quoting. So the last part to that is the products themselves, which are made of components. Components are the ability to use presets of information in order to affect a mass amount of products. So again, going back to our base one door example, a component might be a back, edges, sides, tops, handles, hinges. You have a lot of products that fall into those categories. So by building one end, for example, I can multiply that across all my products without having to set it up individually as a part for every product. And then the last part, of course, is presets, which is taking those products and the internal feed of labor and components and materials and styles and pushing them into a preset that can be very quickly added to a quote. And then you're just filling out quantity and telling the software what it's made of. So how do we achieve this? Realistically, there's a little bit of background behind this. So we're going to run through some of this. The first step is to make sure that your pricing is up to date. So once you've started importing some materials, we want to go into our categories and start dictating to the software what the material category pricing will look like. There is an overarch to this, the very highest level of pricing, which you'll find under settings, catalog pricing. That allows you to put a generic overhead, wastage, and profit percent on all materials in one hit, which means you don't have to think about it going forward. But then the next level is to make sure that our category pricing is up to date with that concept, because as I said at the beginning, not every material in your catalog is going to share the same overhead and wastage. So this is our first point where we can override that general default to make sure every time we bring in, for example, a board of plain variety into a quote, that it will have the right amount of wastage and overhead built in. So you can change the wastage for your different optimizations. Obviously, like I said, for most companies, hardware will have minimal wastage. You don't tend to lose any. It just comes in and you utilize it, but you might have higher pricing built in for handling. You've got to unpack it. You've got to pay a store person to put that stock somewhere. So once you've actually created your category types, you can then run through and follow your product types. So a good way of thinking of this is start small. Start with a handful of product types. I'll use the cabinetry as the example again, which could be base cabinets, drawer cabinets, upper cabinets, and tall cabinets. That's a good starting point. For a lot of you that have signed up in the software and have chosen cabinet making, for example, as your pre-configuration of organization, a lot of this work has already been done for you. For other industries, product types can be things like balustrading. You know, what are all the parts for balustrading? Or it could be as generic as a modular home or donga. So it's a product. We're just thinking of a general type. So when I assign components to those types, that information will flow to all the products in, making setup easier and faster. Once you've actually created a few of the product types, we can then, in the same area, just review our generalized pricing. So we've now got our category pricing. We've got our percentage markups for anything that we don't particularly want to dictate, but we just want to make sure is covered. And that will be the first good start point. to getting your software up and running. Once you've done that, really the first step we always say to clients is make sure you reach out to your suppliers and start pulling your CSVs into the software so that we have a good catalog of materials to work with. We have the ability then to purchase order materials and to assign actual materials at the job stage with accurate pricing. Obviously, when using quote pricing ranges, in quoting, it's fast, it's good, it's a good coverall. However, once this actually becomes a job, and using our board example again, having the range covered price, say $27 a square metre for white carcass board to cover all the carcass internals of a base one door product is fine. However, when we actually go to order it, we need to order, Laminex 16 mil, natural white linen, something like that, or Polytech, or whoever your local supplier is in your region. So it's good to get these imported in early. You can export these at any time to review range pricing. You also have the ability to quickly filter and export your quote pricing in the system. So once you set up these ranges, whether it be for handles, drawer runners, boards, sheets, metal, whatever your quote pricing runs are, these can be easily exported and modified. So you can always keep on top of it. And the best thing is your quote pricing range will probably only be about 20 to 50 items. On average, most companies will be about 30, 35 items. So managing your quote pricing going forward is very easy. You don't have to worry too much about specific material prices fluctuating all the time. So long as every few months you're sort of checking in and keeping on top of those prices, you're making 30 changes from a quick export, importing it back in, all your products are going to update, all your presets are going to update. Every quote moving forward will now use your new range pricing. So that's your benefit from there. The link to that then is the quote pricing is within styles. So you can set up style items and style ranges, which are basically called options. And then you can pull these all together as a complete range. Now, this is a bit that tends to trip a few people up. So I'm going to take a second to talk about this. What is a style? A style is the ability to say, anytime I add a component in a product and pull it into a quote, I want you to look at that range pricing so that when I'm inside a quote and each job is slightly different, I can modify that range pricing quickly and easily from a drop down. What are some great examples of this? I know I'm going to keep banging on about board, but it's just a really easy concept for most people to understand. Everyone's got a kitchen. You can look at a cabinet in the kitchen and go, I get what he's talking about. I can see how I can relate it to my industry. So take your kitchen. Inside your kitchen, you might have front fascia panels or doors on your cabinets. What are they made of? Now, if they are like a grain finish, that finish is going to be more expensive than a plain white melamine finish. Maybe it's two-pack painted, a really high gloss satin finish. Those three things there are what we define as styles. It's the ability to say, every time I bring a cabinet in, it doesn't matter what cabinet, so long as it has a door, I want to be able to tell the software what the pricing is for that range finish. Because obviously, if the client requests two-pack painted, it's going to be far more expensive than basic melamine. So just by creating a number of styles, and like I said, 30 or 40 will do most clients, I can impact the pricing of any product I can bring into the quote pricing section. So we build our options in, and then we link those options to the materials that we just built in the quote pricing, whether it be basic melamine board in this example, or ranges through for handles, hinges, components, balustrading, steel struts, etc., etc. So there's a lot of versatility with this system to impact your products. It's worth noting that the last part to that, you do not have to use. You can just leave all of your pricing ranges as custom, which means every time a quote comes in and you add products, you can quickly use the drop down to choose what those products are made of to then impact the pricing. However, if you are a business that has like presets, for example, builder presets, you might sell a basic range, a deluxe range, a premium range, a builder range, or you might have a particular ag client and you do the same sort of polish or finish or sandblasting over and over and over again. It can be worth then building those style items into what we call a preset range. And that way, with one click drop down, I choose that range, and then every product I bring into the quote inside that pricing will be matched and monitored and, I guess, configured by that range pricing. So it's, again, just a good speed up, but not necessary. The option is there. So now we come back into our catalog, we can see our range pricing, and we need to look at our products. So the first part to building products really is to build and navigate components. And again, this is why we're showing you this video, so you get an understanding of why we're doing all these things backwards. We don't just start at products, build products, and then go, there's nothing inside them. It's best to go back into the software and work backwards. So first we have the catalog, then we build the quote pricing. The quote pricing maps to the styles. Now the styles, we're going to show you a map to the components, and the components build the pricing for the product. So that's why it's good to show this flow in a more detailed format. So components, as I said, are parts. They're parametric. They can be style items. They can be materials. They can be volumes, mass, all those things. They're basically things that make up your cabinets and your products. And the advantage of components, as aforementioned, is I can build one component and it can impact a lot of products. If your business doesn't use generic components, so if you can't, if you're thinking about your business and you think to yourself, I don't quote in ends. For example, furniture is a great example of this, where they might have a handful of products, but most of their work is extremely bespoke. The ability to go into products and just build parts individual to each of those products is basically the same thing. So components and parts are interchangeable. Components is just the ability to map a lot of parts at once. So you don't have to build 20 products and then go into each product and build an end, two sides, a top example. So we can navigate into our products. Now, all components can be parametric. So what that means is you set them up when they pull through into their products, and as the product expands in size, Jobman will automatically modify the pricing, giving you further automation. Like I said, one base, one door cabinet, 1.2 million variations based on what it's made of, how big it is. So now we have a product library built in. You do have the option then to either export or import. Again, if you came into the software and you chose cabinet making, for example, as your industry, there would be about 68, I think, or 67 products already built into the software for you with components ready to map and style items. So a lot of this hard work is done for you. However, this is a process of continual improvement. So we said these products have three important pieces of information. They have a product name, they have an SKU, they have a height, width, and depth, and then they have operation times. So the operation times are the bit that we expect you'll get your continual improvement from. So as you're adding products to quotes, those operation times will pull through into jobs. The team will then measure those jobs and measure that time versus those operations. So standard example, good for all manufacturing, is assembly. Virtually every product in the world requires assembly. So when you first build your product list in Jobman, you might set all your assembly times to 20 minutes. So if I add one of that product to Jobman's quoting, it will pull one 20-minute slot into the job. If I pull 10 in, I'll have 200 minutes, and so on and so forth. As you utilize Jobman and you actually measure those jobs, and the assembly team is measuring time versus those operations in real time, in real life, you'll start to develop the data which will tell you, do all these products take 20 minutes to assemble? Some might take 18 minutes, some might take 22 minutes, some might take 30 minutes. We want to make sure that we can keep that information live and update our quoting very easily. So the way we do that is we can export our product list, we can modify these operation times, and those operation times then will get sucked back in, override the products in Jobman, very quick, easy process. And then every quote going forward now, we've optimized and improved our process, but most importantly, we've covered ourselves from a quoting point of view. We're allowing enough time for the team to get the job done. So you can quickly import, export. The other advantage here is you can, if you're using one of our CAD integrations, you can match those SKUs to your CAD import, and then that will give you that process of import, which we'll show you in a second. But you can see here inside the product, I can see all the components I've built, all the labor, any parts, anything that's material based, and it's all transparent. It even gives you what's called a base pricing level, so that you can look at the actual product itself and know that what you've built is correct based on the very basic pricing. Obviously, as you add it into a quote and you update those styles, so you make them more expensive hinges, more expensive drawer runners, more expensive steel, more expensive board, that product pricing will increase. But at a base level, at least you can look at your products and know that the way you've built them is correct, and it should have the good expected margin in there. The next part to that is now that we've got a lot of products, we want to build presets so we can do fast quoting. So what's a preset? Some good examples would be a kitchen preset, where you build a preset, add in a bunch of products that are common to most kitchens you would do. We put a zero quantity in that preset. So now every time we go to do a quote, we simply hit preset, kitchen, it sucks in all those products. We fill out these quantities, we change the styles, instant quote, 2 to 3 minutes. We can then obviously go into our quote and add in extra parts, like if we need extra labor or more materials that aren't covered in that base preset. It's all there. We have that capability. And we can also see what other benefits that has when that pulls through, because we can have presets mapped to items. So it gives us very clear, concise quotes for our customers so they can see exactly what's going on. Other perfect examples of presets, steel industry, for example, you might make a preset where you do a lot of gates or balustrading or steel benchtops or prefab parts. So you might use the preset to have a number of commonality products in there, and then add in some extra labor and materials into that preset. So each time we just pull that into a quote, all the team has to do is fill out that information, the pricing's set, everything's ready to go, and we get a fast quote, but fully flexible. That's the important part. It's worth noting that, Jobman, whilst powerful and intuitive, is also very flexible. We understand that 90% of Australian SMEs and New Zealand SMEs, and a lot of SMEs around the world, don't deal with what we call configurable manufacturing, over and over and over, same thing. Every job is different. And this is that ability, using products that have variations and presets that are accountable per quote, is how you really get the best of that automation. So we're going to show you 2 quote imports now. For fast examples. The first is the benefit of the CAD integration. So you might use, for example, Cabinet Vision, Mosaic, CAD Master, Microvellum, a lot of those, and a lot of cabinet makers come to us looking for that automation where they simply draw as part of the process and then want to import into their software quickly to produce a fast quote. So you can see there, literally, we brought in the drawing. Jobman can handle the rooms, so foyer, kitchen, laundry, study, vanities, bathroom, whatever that's set up in your software. It will pull in the cabinets themselves and the exact height, widths, and depths. That's the advantage of doing it this way, is you've already optimized them. Again, it's not necessary. You have all your products built into the system, so you can fast quote with Jobman without ever needing to go through this process. But for a lot of companies, it's important, especially if you're a design company first and you design your products first, draw them accurately, and that's what sells the client. We want to quickly bring that information into Jobman, produce a fast quote, present it to the client, win the job, move forward with all that automation intact. So you can see here that it's pulled through the exact parametrics rather than our generalized product parametrics, and the pricing can now be affected by style and by quantity. And it's that easy. We can pick up a really fast, accurate quote for our clients, and simply changing the style items, or style ranges, I should say, will now affect that pricing going forward. And Jobman being an emailing in and out client, this can be quickly sent off to the client to win those jobs. So the other side to that, which we didn't show, was the preset import as well. So the benefit obviously is not just CAD integration. You can come into Jobman itself, and instead of pulling that CAD pull through, you could do the preset import, and you basically grab that import, that preset, add it into a section, fill out the numbers, and you've had exactly the same process without the import side done fast. And it doesn't matter your industry, presets are incredible. We also have the ability to put things like groups into quote presets. So a group is basically a product, but it's what we call a dumb line item. It's the ability just to add a bunch of materials and labor. This is very good for a lot of industries where a lot of the part work they're doing is very bespoke. Not every product will be quite different that they pull in. So groups really covers that. And as always, we have a lot of articles about this information built into the software already. So let's hit a couple of the new big features now. One of our favorite new releases is triggers. So what is a trigger? A trigger is basically an event that happens in your software and you want something to happen. Obviously, Jobman is extremely good around helping with scheduling and time management for the team. So one of the benefits of that is everybody can see and is accountable on their agenda screens for what's going on all the time. But sometimes we want little extra reminders going off, or maybe we want an automation to go out to a client. For example, when we hit a certain part of the manufacturing process, just a quick email trigger to shoot out once that operation has been ticked off and say, "G'day, client. We are traveling along as expected. Your dispatch or install will be on this date. Everything's looking great." Also, marketing, as leads come in and certain operations kicked off, maybe you want an automation where marketing goes out to your client, just give you a quick rundown of your company, really feel that nice CRM flow through. And there's a lot of job triggers that can be built into the system as well. We've built these in such a way that you have a lot of power and control of them. You have email triggers and notification triggers. They can be accessed from settings and workflows, and then they can be added into leads or job tasks. And inside your workflows themselves, you'll see a little icon that will appear where those triggers have been placed, so that you know every time that operation is ticked, or that operation is due, or even that operation is past due. So you can use triggers as reminders to the team, especially on important projects. So a lot of benefits to these, a lot of uses. Again, there's a lot of documentation in the software to help you get these up and running. Right now, they can trigger off any response in the operation task flow. Really good. Check them out. Again, if you run into any major headaches, check out the documentation, check out the videos, and really come back to us if you do get stuck. The second big release this month, which was absolutely huge, is alerts. So job alerts are one of the more powerful features in the software for what we consider to be internal communication. It's a big part of what Jobman tries to deliver at all times. We've got the transparency there, you've got the kiosk mode. Now we want some automation built around when things go wrong. Obviously, we do our best to help make sure your processes are improved and benefited, but things do go wrong all the time. For example, parts get damaged, whether it be through manufacturing or install, people hurt themselves, etc. Alerts don't necessarily have to be bad things as well. This is about communication within the team. So, for example, account send final payment is a great example of an alert where you want someone to alert somebody fast and quickly without having to rely on writing out emails or text messaging or phone calls, taking up time basically. So the way alerts work is you build them; they're pre-built, and then the team from either the kiosk mode or the front end users inside a job can simply choose to create an alert. And that alert you can see here on even the kiosk on the mobile mode. We're inside a job. They quickly use the drop down, choose the alert type, fill in some details, and they can even attach photos of what's going on if necessary as part of your process, or any other documentation, any other information you need can be attached here. The alert then will send a triggered notification to the people responsible. So that's part of the trigger setup the alert setup is you pre-set up who is responsible for that type of alert. If it's a damaged part, obviously we might want to let the drafter know, the project manager know, and the purchase order know, so that the three of them can then quickly take that information and resolve what needs to be done. If we need to order more stock to cover that part, do we need to create more CNC code to get that done? And then someone has to schedule that in. Now, a couple of really important benefits of alerts, aside from that fast communication, keeping processes running smoothly in your business, is number one, they're all tracked. They have statuses. So they come into a specialized section you would have seen in your software now called Job Alerts. You can see there that I've got statuses such as reported, working on, completed. So that information is now transparent for the team. You can also see where everybody's up to, making sure these alerts are getting handled in a timely manner. Second thing it does is it auto-fills a lot of that information. So the alert itself, even though it looks like a very simple form, will pre-fill in the person creating the alert. It will pre-fill in the job or work order that they're working on. It will pre-fill in the date and the exact time. So all the information is there. It comes through as part of the alert. We don't need the team to waste their time filling out that stuff. We just want it to be fast, easy process for them. If someone's hurt themselves or a part has been damaged, or we've just finished an install or dispatch, we need to let someone know to shoot off for a payment or whatever they might be. And then, honestly, the world is your oyster when it comes to alerts. I've seen companies with 98 pre-built alerts in their software. They are a huge benefit. I just want them to be able to choose that alert type, shoot it down, and then they do have the option, if there's someone specific they need to let know beyond those alert parameters, they can also choose to CC someone in. For example, if I have to go home sick, I send the alert. HR will receive it, my project manager will receive it, but I also might want to just quickly notify my line manager, just so they're not looking around the factory and going, where have you gone? So look, really powerful. Again, lots of documentation, lots of benefit, really easily and straightforward to set up, a lot of templating options to go through from there. This last one is something I am extremely excited about for our client base, but is not going to be initially very obvious as to what it actually does. And that's why I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes before we dive into Q&A on this new release. So these are staff types. One of the biggest benefits of Jobman 2 really moving forward in the market with our client base has always been the idea that we want to be able to communicate externally with our software. So this is certainly big when it comes to wholesale manufacturing or design houses linking in with other operations. Also, we want the benefit of things like integrators and advisors and business coaches to be able to help you in your process journey. I mean, Jobman is the tool. It provides the parametrics, it improves your processes, improves your profitability and scalability, but ultimately it is the tool. So we want you to be able to link out and ask for help externally or with companies you already use. And we want them to be able to come to your software and see what's going on without having to necessarily buy user licenses for them. So staff types come in four types currently, and we expect this list will expand. They are an overside permission on top of roles. So for those of you who've seen the roles in Jobman, you're very aware how granular they are. You can have an administrator role in your company, and I think there's 346 touch points at which you can shut down viewability, editability, functionality in the software. So as you come down your staff list from managers to foremen to project managers, right down to even the kiosk floor, what they can see, what they can touch, what they can edit, they can do, very granular in Jobman. What we needed, or what we really wanted, is one step above that. So because you can call those roles anything you want, one of the big solution challenges we've had is, as we're rolling out new features, you virtually have to go in every time a new feature is rolled out and basically update your staffing permissions to allow you to do that. So one of the big things this solves is you can now assign an administrator. You can assign multiple administrators actually up into the number of user licenses you have for your software. That is an overarch. It means I'm basically super administrator. I have the power every time something new is released. Give me access. Just pre-fill everything out. I want access to it all the time. So when something new comes out, I can set it up and then roll it out to the team. I don't need to go and open things up. So this is a big one. And then by default, you will now have to assign your other staff one of two roles, staff type, sorry. It will either be an office user or a kiosk user. The benefit of this now is that I think it sends a lot of transparency around what the actual user types are in Jobman, but also it will automatically limit some of their functionality, which is really important. From there, you can override that functionality, expand and configure that functionality using the roles. So the roles are still there, they haven't changed. So you can have an office user and define them as a project manager. They can see this, this, and this. Or I can have an office user and they're an estimator. They can see leads only. They can modify quotes. They can't see profit percentages and they can't see anything to do with jobs and catalog, for example. So this is just an overarch. The last one on there is the one I'm most excited about, which is the advisor role. And this will basically give companies the opportunity, like I said, to reach out to integrators and business advisors and accountants, and, all those really important support network people in your business that are going to need at some point, not all the time, they need to be in your software all the time, but at certain parts throughout the year in meetings, you want them to have access to come in and just have a look. They can't change anything, play with anything, modify anything, but they can help advise you and see. Anyone who's a zero user will be very comfortable with this concept of advisor roles in their software. So this is really exciting. They're out now. By default, all of the organization sign up administrators, so anyone that's signed up with the software and you are the default administrator, we have designated you as administrator. So all you need to do is go into your settings now in your staff types and just edit each of your staff that are there if you want to take advantage of this functionality. We have some permissions built into the system now to make sure that any new staff that come in, you'll have to do this by default going forward. But if you're already inside the software, this is the last part to that you'll just need to set up very quickly, and that's off and running. And like I said, the main benefit really for most people right now is that administrator user. It's just saying, look, I am the super user. I want to see everything coming in that's new. I want to be automatically ticked into it, and then I will choose how that then impacts my company and whether it impacts my company. Like, if you have no interest in triggers, it will still be turned on for you, but just ignore them. You know what I mean? So that's the beauty of it now is we have that ability to roll out all new functionality quickly and easily to a high level user bases within organizations without messing up the software. And the other good part to that is it means it then gives you the opportunity to step in and define how that new feature will be used for your company. Is there any option to flag or favorite certain items in the availability chart? Yes, actually, that is one awesome part of the new update is catalog items now can have a default status, which means they are basically favoritized. And quote pricing now, we have a section which is called substitution. What that means is if you set up a board, for example, we'll use our Laminex example of just a white carcass board. White carcass board is the quote pricing. It's the default. It's what we always want to use because that's how we break our pricing down. And then you can build the actual substitutes you would order underneath that. So, for example, Laminex 16 mil, Polytech 16 mil. If you're in New Zealand, something else. If you're anywhere else in the world, it might be another company. So, yeah, really, really good functionality now. That's something I probably should have mentioned. It's a big one. Inside a quote, just because you built a product and you have parametric and style pricing, you can go into that inside the quote literally and make some changes live, and it won't impact your products. Apart from alerts, is there any type of direct messaging between staff plan for Jobman or comment feed for jobs? Absolutely. So our notification system in Jobman 2 is second to none. There is a lot of versatility with it. Right now, it's already linked in because we have email in and out services within our software. We have the ability to assign members to tasks and jobs, building notifications. You have alerts and triggers that provide notifications, and we have virtually note fields and activity fields on every part of the software.